Hi, this is Mark Salisbury from Langley, Canada, and I play at Northview Golf and Country Club. This is Golf Smarter number 991.
If you want to work on your golf swing, there's a video called Swing Beats Ernie Els. It's on YouTube. Go watch it. Don't think about it. Don't put it into words. Just watch Ernie Els swing, and it shows him hitting like a 2-iron, a 5-iron, and an 8-iron. It's the same swing every time. And Ernie Els has that beautiful, smooth swing. Most guys, if they swung like Michelle Wee, would play better. But they're trying to hit it like Rory McIlroy. I'm going to hit it really far. Just keep it in play. Hit it straight. If you could hit the ball like Michelle Wee, you'd be a lot better player than you are. I talk about the mental game more. Don't be an idiot. Why do you get up and say, I'm going to put a little extra on this one? And you know what happens? You hit it in the water, hit it 2 inches. What is it in our minds that make us do that? I'm going to hit this one really hard. I'm going to do the old Russian hammer thrower swing here, and it never works out.
Hit your second shot first. A snarky book about playing golf by humorist Jim Flynn.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Jim.
Well, thanks for having me.
I'm glad to have you on. This is a fun little book. And it's definitely tongue-in-cheek. I mean, you even call yourself snarky at one point in the descriptions of this, and I would have to concur, it's snarky humor. Yeah,
it's. I'm kind of a wise guy. That's just who I am. I wrote this book. I'm a novelist, and I'm working on a novel right now. I wrote this as a lark to take a break from writing a novel. I was really sort of stuck in it. I don't know if you've ever tried to do something like that. I was just dead. I had no place to go. So I said, I'm a golfer. I'm a hacker golfer. And I always kidded. I'd write a book called Hit Your Second Shot First. Because I'm always saying that. And right. So I wrote this book as a lark. And it's a lot shorter than a novel, a lot easier to write than a novel. It's been my by far bestseller.
Wow! Congratulations.
Yeah, it sells. It's been out for 5 years. It still sells every day, somewhere in the world where they speak. Although it's sold in Japan, I'm assuming to English speakers in Japan because it's not translated. But it still sells every day. It's for people who have a sense of humor about golf. As you know, there are people who take golf very, very seriously and some kind of religious rite and all that stuff, and they don't like this book. It's not for them. But if you have a little bit of sense of humor about golf, I think you play better.
Absolutely.
And so it's written for people like that who want to have fun.
Yep. Well, this audience definitely runs the gamut from the very serious golfer who wouldn't find this funny to the guys who love daddy humor and snarky humor. That would just, I found myself going, really? And then less than 2 minutes later, I'd be laughing out loud. So it's like you really did go all the way on extremes on both ends. But I did find it to be fun and quick. I did the audiobook, and the reader is clearly a pro.
Yeah, he's great.
What he was doing. And so I did the whole book in a day. I mean,
the audio book, if somebody is an audio book person, this is a great book to listen on the way to the golf course. And you might even play better after you listen to it.
Well, as long as you keep your sense of humor.
Yeah.
Tell me about some of the other books you've written.
Well, I've written, my first book was called Be Sincere Even When You Don't Mean It, which is not a novel. It's a sort of a humorous memoir. And this fellow who narrates Hit Your Second Shot First also narrated that. Gary Williams, his name is. And it's kind of crazy about this guy who does all these wonderful things. He's an astronaut, and he plays in the Masters tournament, and he's a football player. And it's kind of like it's not meant to be believable. It's meant to be funny. And it is funny, and it's still my second bestseller. It still sells.
Wow.
It sold quite a few copies in Australia. Don't ask me why. I was on one podcast there a million years ago. They must like my sense of humor. England, they don't like my sense of humor. I can't give my books away in England. And then I started writing novels. I was fortunate enough to pick up some fans on my first book, and among them are people I'd call real writers, people who make a living out of writing, people who've written New York Times bestsellers. And a couple of them have become my sort of spiritual mentors, unofficial mentors. And they said, hey, you're funny. You should keep writing. Not that many people, there's a lot of decent writers out there. There's not many people good at being funny. So carry that sense of humor forward, write a novel. So I wrote a novel. I was in the investment business for a million years. And so I made up this guy, and he uncovers a Ponzi scheme in the first novel. And now I'm on the fourth novel. So
wow.
Same guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was one of the famous lines about actors saying, dying is easy, comedy is hard.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I'm naturally funny. My wife says, if the fire alarm's going off at 3:00 in the morning and we get up, you're funny. That's just who I am. So,
how long have you been married?
48 years.
And she still thinks you're funny.
Yes.
Wow. That is a testimonial right there.
Well, that's a requirement. If she didn't appreciate my sense of humor, we wouldn't have lasted 48 years. So.
Oh, absolutely. I'm coming up on 45, and occasionally she'll go, you make me laugh.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's like, shh, don't, that's not funny. Don't
put down the toilet seat, stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, that's not even a conversation. I can go on and on about that conversation all by myself. Tell me about your golf game.
I'm a 18 handicapper.
Okay.
I've had more surgeries than maybe Oakland Raiders combined. So I don't hit the ball very far, even though I'm a pretty big guy. I have a pretty good short game. And when I'm not stupid, I can get a good score.
And do your playing partners appreciate your humor?
I don't talk much on the course.
Uh-huh.
I don't. I'm not one of these ha ha hey guys on the course. It's not like I'm super serious. I don't like talking on the course. I like to play. Some of the guys I play with don't know I write books. I'm in this league, a bunch of guys who play first thing in the morning. 9 holes, bunch of old guys. And you get, you put your card in, and the starter shuffles them. So you don't play the same guys. You don't arrange your match. You play with different guys. And there's maybe 50 guys in a group. A lot of the guys don't know I write books. They don't know that I'm, hilarious, wonderful guy. They just, either like me or don't like me as a golfer. But you would not know that stuff from playing golf with me.
Uh-huh. Okay, so you're incognito when you're playing golf as part as being a writer.
Although
you're not.
Although I have to tell you that the one thing that someone who might not like me playing golf is if you're really slow. And I don't mean the guys who can't walk because they're old. I mean the 5 practice swing guys and the guys who stalk around their putt. The guys I play with, I have a scientific theory. The longer they take the putt, the less likely they are to going to make it.
Okay.
And the best guys I play with are the fastest putters. And I don't mean, there's some guys who, that's their form of choking. They get up and hit it really fast because they can't take the pressure. I'm talking about guys who just stand up, look at the putt, hit it. They're the best players.
And how's your putting?
Medium.
And do you take time to line up your? Tell me, walk me through your pre-shot routine when you're putting.
I'm really I line it up. I try to line it up while somebody else is putting, and so I try to be cognizant of the people I'm playing with and the people who are playing behind me. So I try to be ready when it's my turn. Not like some guys act like, oh, I have to hit the ball. Oh, I'll go over and get my putter now. No, you have to be ready. I'm ready. I get up. Maybe it takes me 5 seconds. And I try to just hit the right speed. And sometimes it goes in,
Yeah. You don't measure out your putt.
No.
Do you keep a line on the ball and you line up the ball?
No, that's.
I'm describing myself, by the way.
I do not do the line thing. I just leave it there unless I have to mark it for, get out of somebody's way. I don't move it. I don't touch it.
Clean the ball when it's got mud on it?
Well, if it has mud on it, I cleaned it off. But if it's just there, I just putt it. So I'm pretty fast putter, and I'm not great, but I'm not terrible.
Do you get 36 putts in, or are you a 39 or 32 putts around? Do you know?
I don't keep track, but it's going to be more than 36 because I 3-putt once in a while.
Once in a while?
Yeah.
3 times around?
Usually I play 9 holes, so I'm a 9-hole guy because of all my injuries. I feel
okay.
You want to know my score? If I play 9, I shoot 42. And if I play 18, I shoot 52 on the back 9 because my injuries start kicking in. And I can take 400 Tylenol. It doesn't help. So I'm much happier playing 9, and I'm much better. I won't delve on my medical history, but I've had a few things that would stop. They just kick in on the back 9. About the 13th hole, I can't really play anymore. So therefore, I might 3-putt on 9 holes. I might 3-putt once or twice.
So there's no instructional advice going on in your game or in your book. This is not for somebody who wants instruction.
I wouldn't say that. If you want to work on your golf swing, it's not the right book for you. In fact, I have a woman that I hire.
I was going to go there.
No, it's not a golf swing thing, except the one thing I say is, if you want to work on your golf swing, there's a video called Swing Beats Ernie Els. It's on YouTube. Go watch it. Don't think about it. Don't put it into words. Just watch Ernie Els swing. And it shows him hitting like a 2-iron, a 5-iron, and an 8-iron. It's the same swing every time. Same swing. And, Ernie Els has that beautiful, smooth swing. The other thing, look at Michelle Wee. Most guys, if they swung like Michelle Wee, would play better. But they're trying to hit it like Rory McIlroy. I'm going to hit it really far. Just keep it in play. Hit it straight. If you could hit the ball like Michelle Wee, you'd be a lot better player than you are. That's the only thing I talk about the golf swing. I talk about the mental game more. Don't be an idiot, which I don't always follow that policy. Why do you get up and say, I'm going to put a little extra on this one? And you know what happens? You hit it in the water, hit it 2 inches. What is it in our minds that make us do that? I'm going to hit this one really hard. I'm going to do the old Russian hammer thrower swing here, and it never works out.
Right. Yeah, we have a saying here on Golf Smarter that I learned from a listener years and years ago, and I keep repeating it. And as I'm setting this up, I'm sure that there's listeners going, okay, I can sing along with this one. And it's never follow a bad shot with a stupid shot.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, and then let's go into hit your second shot first. I start the book.
Exactly.
You're just playing for fun with a bunch of guys and you hit a terrible tee shot and they say, come on, take another one. Why do you hit a good one? What happened between those two things? And I say, people think, well, I'm a bad person. I'm being punished. Well, that's not it. Or I'm stupid. I'm stupid, and that's it. Well, you didn't get smart in the 5 seconds between the first and second shot, and you didn't get to be a better person. Why did you hit a better shot? Well, it's because you're not trying to do the same thing. You're trying to put it in play. because you don't want to hit 2 onto the driving range, right? You want to hit, okay, you just hit a terrible shot. People are standing there waiting for you to play. What do? You turn it down a few notches and say, I got to put it in play. So that's an instructional thing. And the other thing is the mental game. And I talk about that, the famous Brooks Koepka interview, which is real. And I think you can find that on YouTube. Amanda Balionis, this is back before the big schism and Brooks Koepka was playing on the PGA Tour. And it was a regular tournament. It wasn't a major. And the bubbly Amanda Balionis says, now, Brooks, what were you thinking on this shot, an 18th hole? You had to go over the water. You needed to get down in 3 to tie and have a playoff. What were you thinking as you hit this difficult shot, which ended up 3 feet from the hole? You made the putt, won the tournament. So what were you thinking? And Brooks says, nothing. That's his whole answer. Nothing.
She's like, I'm gonna.
Well, Amanda laughed. They both laughed. But I said, if we could all think nothing, we'd be a lot better. And then I go into comparing, okay, that's what Brooks was thinking. Here's what you'd be thinking. Is my shoelace too tight? Where did I put my car keys? Should I open up the club face? It's downhill lie. Why am I stupid? Why didn't I hit it over to the right where it wasn't a downhill lie? All these millions of things that the average guy goes through. You're much better off thinking nothing. That's hard to do.
Well, I invite you to listen to the Golf Smarter podcast regularly because we talk to a lot of mental coaches. Even recently we had on the mother of mindfulness. I mean, this is a Harvard professor who's been given the title of the mother of mindfulness.
Okay.
And we talk a lot about keeping your mind empty.
Yep.
And not think about swing mechanics and what your swing thoughts are, but think of something external somewhere else on the course in your target line. But when you think about the things that you have to do with your body, it's only going to hurt you.
I will watch. I will watch. But now Ben-Hogan, who gets a lot of ink in this book for ruining a lot of golfers. But his swing thought was Henny Bogan. He brought back Henny, came forward, Bogan. That's all he thought about. He adopted that when he was a scrambled up version of his name. He started doing that when he was 12 years old. And that was his swing thought through his whole life. Now, Ben-Hogan, nobody would argue he's not one of the greatest golfers of all time. Maybe had the nicest swing of all time. But I do blame him for ruining it for a lot of amateur golfers who think they can swing like Ben-Hogan. By the way, the number one selling golf book is still 5 Lessons by Ben-Hogan. Every year it sells the most. If you take me, I could read that book a million times. I can't swing like Ben-Hogan. I cannot possibly move my body like Ben-Hogan tells me to. He spends 20 pages. There's 5 lessons. First lesson is on the grip, 20 pages. If you don't know how to play golf and you go and they hand you a club, how long does it take? 30 seconds for an overlapping grip. Here's how you hold the club. Ben's 20 pages on that. By the way, 5 lessons. Here's how many words he writes about the most important stroke for amateur golfer, which is putting. You look at how many strokes. Which one do you hit the most? Putting. Ben writes 0 words on putting. He didn't like putting. As the older he got, the more he started choking all over he got the yips and couldn't putt. Still had a great swing. But as you know, Ben's book is the number one seller. And you take a guy my age and give him Ben. In fact, I'm in this group, and every 2 weeks we have what we call the chicken tournament. I started it off, and we would play. The winner got a rubber chicken, which he got to keep for 2 weeks. And it was fun. We'd throw it around. And it's grown. And now we have chicken head covers for the low net and low gross. And sometimes there's 8 guys who play. Sometimes there's 50 guys who play, depending on the weather and so on. But so people have contributed different prizes, and I contributed another prize, which I have Hogan's book, 5 Lessons, and I bought it on purpose, the most ratty copy I could find on eBay for 35 cents. It's got coffee stains on it and stuff. We give it to a guy to try to jinx him for the next term. We give it to the guy who wins. Try to jinx him for the next tournament, because if you read it, it's going to ruin your game. I play with the 2 best guys in my group. They have similar handicaps. One of them has a really nice classic swing. It's not Hogan, but it's nice classic swing. The other guy has a, public course, started playing when he was 25 guy swing. You would not write a book. You would not take a video of this guy and try to sell it as an instructional video, except he's a good golfer. So
yeah, his name is Jim Furyk.
Oh, no, well, this guy makes Jim Furyk look like Ben-Hogan, but he stands too far away from the ball and does all these things the classical golfer wouldn't do. But Jim Furyk's a good example for a pro. He doesn't have a classical swing. Just do your own swing. Get a decent swing, and then don't think about it anymore. Practice your short game and try to think about nothing.
It actually, one of the parts that made me laugh out loud was when you talked about the cult of Hogan.
Yep.
And I thought that was just such a great way to put it. And you're right. It's a fascinating book. It's very technical, but it's not an easy read to go ahead and read it and then just apply it, because you're like, you need help with that stuff. But it's still the best-selling book ever written. I think it's because it's short.
I had to change. I had to get a new primary care physician because mine retired. And I got this guy who's like as old as my oldest son, who's 2 handicapped. And so we talk about golf. And I told him about my book and how I make fun of Ben-Hogan. And all of a sudden, the temperature went down about 20 degrees in the room. And he says, I read that book every night. I said, how old were you when you started playing? 3. If you're 3, you can do it. If you're 45 and you're starting, you're not going to, don't read Ben-Hogan's book. Go to the pro. And I talk about this in the book. People think, I'm just going to buy the new driver. That's going to do it. And I talk about the guy. This is true. I played with a guy in a league that was, pretty serious league. Nobody ever gave you had to put him in. And this guy was a clown, and he bought a new driver every year. And he would always say, I can hit this 30 yards farther than my old driver. And I didn't we didn't like each other. So about the 5th year I'm playing, this guy's still driving 200 yards. He was driving 200 yards, still driving 200 yards. He said, by my math, you should be up to 350 by now, because every driver you buy, you hit it 30 yards farther, and it's 150 yards in 5 years. He didn't think that was that great of a comment.
No, I bet he didn't want to play with you after that.
No, it was one of these things where you were matched.
You're kind of stuck with each other.
We never would have played together on purpose. He was also one of these guys. You must have played with guys who can't tell you hit a good shot. The guy, you make a 50-foot putt, and he goes, is that a 2? Doesn't say anything. He's one of those guys.
That's not fun.
But anyhow, what I say is, instead of buying that new driver, which is going to cost $300 or $600 or $1,000, whatever it is, if you take that money and spend it on lessons, I'm not encouraging people don't take it seriously. Take it seriously, but not too seriously. But if you get a decent pro who's not trying to turn you into Ben-Hogan, working with what you got, let's say you're going to buy a $500 driver. If you spend $500 on lessons, that's a much better investment than going out buying a new driver that you can't hit.
You probably have a greater chance of hitting the fairways with those lessons than you do with just a new driver.
Yeah.
And if you're going to spend that money, get a putter. I mean, right? A driver you use maybe 14 times around, maybe. And a putter, they give you 36 shots with your putter
Yeah.
on the scorecard before you even start. So it's like, do the math, folks. Come on.
Yeah, well, get
What's
a putter
going
you
on
can
here?
putt with. I agree. Yeah, get a putter you can putt with.
Yeah, go Lab. All right, so there were a couple things in here I wanted to bring up that I was like, is that funny? I'm not. The cattle prod conversation. You keep bringing up cattle prods. Why do you do that?
Well, I have a farm.
Snarky.
I used to have horses, and so I'm familiar with the technology. But and I'll give, for your listeners, I'll give you the context. What I say is, I'm talking about slow play, and there's a guy who just got the rangefinder, and he hits his tee shot, and he's standing right next to the 150-yard marker. And what does he do? He has to get out his rangefinder and holds it backwards because he doesn't know how to use it yet, and takes all this time. And then delusional guy thinks he can hit his 8-iron 150 because in 1987 he hit 150. He really should be
once.
Once. So therefore you can hit that the rest of your life, and he's never done it again. We all know this guy, right? And so he swings too hard. He hits the ball 6 feet. Then what does he do? He gets the rangefinder out again. Yeah, it says, well, it's 152, And then I say, you're allowed to use your cattle prod on that guy. So, and some people think that's funny. In fact, one of the gifts we have for our chicken tournament is a guy made up a pretend cattle prod. Actually, it's a pretend rangefinder cattle prod. It's actually pretty clever the way the guy made this. So one guy gets and the other thing that some people find objectionable is, I say that under certain circumstances, it's okay to beat somebody to death with a putter. The guy who you tee up your ball, and before you can take a swing, it falls off the tee. And there's always a guy who says, that's one.
That's one.
Yeah, it's something clever that you haven't heard 400 billion times. And I say, you give the guy a warning, and then if he does it again, you're allowed to beat him to death with your putter. Now, that's not, as I said, that humor isn't for everybody, but some people think it's funny.
Right. Sick humor. I know. I'm like going, I don't like that.
Yeah,
That's
some people think it's objectionable. And so this book is however, this book has been a bestseller on Amazon. So some people think it's funny, and it does sell every day somewhere in the world. Great. Somebody buys this book. Amazing. And it makes a great gift.
If I have to go in defense of the pulling out the rangefinder, it says it's 150 to the center of the green, and it's a red flag, or it's a blue flag. It's not the flag's not in the center. So you want to just kind of have a better sense, and it's like
we probably shouldn't play together. I'm guessing we probably shouldn't.
Too literally.
You know what I would tell you? Hit the middle of the green. Aim for the middle of the green. If you're that good and you can hit it in the back of the green, no offense, I bet you're not that good. Most guys, 90% of the guys aim for the middle of the green. If it's a red flag, aim for the middle of the green. If it's a blue flag, aim for the middle of the green. Silver on the right, aim for the middle of the green. Yeah, that's actually when I get in trouble is when I get clever. Say I'm a really good wedge player. It's over on the right. What do? Put it in the trap. Aim for the middle of the green.
I don't remember who told me, there was somebody on the show once, but they said that as an experiment, a course removed the flags from the course, and more people were getting greens in regulation because they were just going for the center of the green.
What do you know?
Right? They weren't going pin seeking. And that their statistics showed that if you don't have the flag there, you're going to more likely to get to the on the green in regulation than if you have to, try to pinpoint your shot to a place that you can't.
I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I played with a guy who wasn't that good, and he had a 15-foot putt downhill bender. There's no way he was going to make it. And he walked around for about 4 minutes looking at it. And I said, you better make this expletive deleted putt. He says, why? I said, because we've been waiting 4 minutes and you're not going to make this putt. And he missed he hit it off the green because it was downhill. And if you missed this thing, it was going off. He didn't think that was great. So don't take 4 minutes lining up your putt. If you're Jack Nicklaus, okay. But if you're just a regular guy, get up, get a line on, and hit the ball.
The thing that attracted me to the book, Hit Your Second Shot First by Jim Flynn, was we have a phrase that we use regularly, which is after you've hit your second shot and it's inbounds and you do a decent shot, we call that being a second swing All-American. It's the kind of thing I thought you would find funny.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I mean, my philosophy isn't for people who are club champions and playing for the regional championship and want to be professional golfers. It's for the average golfer, as we talked about. Go for the middle of the green. Go for the fairway. Try to hit the ball in the fairway instead of trying to hit it 30 yards farther and behind a tree.
Right. And they're short chapters. You don't have to read them in order. You can go any direction you want. So this is a great little book to keep in the guest bathroom. Right? So your guest can pick it up like, oh, what's this? And they read one chapter.
It's funny you say that because I've had people tell me that. It's in the guest bathroom. I say,
right?
I'm not offended. I'm not going for Dostoevsky here. It's meant to be a funny little thing you can pick up and read one chapter in any order. And as I said, it has been an Amazon bestseller. It's not Ben-Hogan's book. It's not going to be.
Right,
it's not even what I set out to do when I started writing. It just has worked out for me. I've also written another golf book, 10 Greatest Golfers of All Time, which is a little more serious, and I talk about it. It has
that required research.
A lot of research, and it also requires kicking some people off that I got some pushback on. Why isn't Phil Mickelson on there? Why isn't Gene Sarazen, Peter Thompson? There's a lot of fans of.
How did you determine who were the 10 best golfers?
Well, you got 2 at the time.
And what year did you write it?
Last year. No, 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so pretty recently.
All right.
Tiger and Jack are number 1 and 2.
Sure.
Or they're vying for number 1. That's easy. So you got So you got those 2 guys to start with. Arnie's got to be on the list. Hogan's got to be on the list.
Is it based on tour wins? Is it based on majors, or is it based on popularity?
All the above.
Cultural.
Oh yeah, Bobby Jones.
Sure.
There's certain names you can't exclude from the list.
Right.
But it was a great learning experience. For example, Walter Hagen, I didn't know anything about him. He made number 10 because he really he was the first real golf pro. I don't know if you know a lot about Walter Hagen. He was a larger than life character. Yeah, he walked into the clubhouse in the British Open and said, "Okay, which one of you guys going to be second?"
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. And that was him. And he had a silk shirt and the whole deal. I mentioned, Larry Bird in the first 3-point shooting contest, when they started that at the NBA All-Star game, he walked in the locker room and said, "Okay, which one of you guys going to be second?" And Larry didn't know that he was saying the same thing Walter Hagen said in 1922 or something. Awesome. And the key for both Larry and Walter Hagen is you got to win. You can't say that and not win. So that was a fun book to write. And I did get some pushback on it. Didn't sell as much as it is funny, and I can't write a book and not be funny at all. But, and I take some shots at people in it, and some people didn't like that.
Well, I think it's a great thing if people are giving you pushback on who's on your list because that means they're reading it.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah. That's
great.
Yeah.
Sure. Come on, tell me more. Let's hear
Well,
what you think.
That's also.
I already printed it, so we're done.
The 10 great. This book, as you say, is snarky, and it's not for everybody. 10 greatest golfers you could pretty much give anybody. It's not going to offend anybody, and it does. You're going to learn some things about Arnold Palmer you didn't know, because I did a lot of research. Even Jack Nicklaus, even Tiger. You're going to learn some things you didn't know about them. How
long did it take you to write that book?
That took a while. Although research is a lot easier now with chat and AI and all that stuff. And it sends you to other places. I don't know if do you use AI at all?
I do.
Yeah, it's research for a nonfiction book is a lot easier than it used to be. Imagine, what are you going to do? Go to the library? Yeah. So, and I really enjoyed that, and it was a learning experience.
Awesome. Wow. Have you ever read the book The Match by Mark Frost?
Yes.
I love that book.
Yep.
I read it probably 18, 19 years ago, and it's still on my list of one of the best golf books I've ever read.
It reminds me of, I don't want to get too deep down the tunnel here, but I think he might have based that on a book about a bicycle race.
Really?
Yeah. I'm guessing after I read that book, there's a book about a one-day bicycle race in Europe. And there's an awful lot of parallels between those two books. And I'm guessing, I bet you he read that book.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. Huh. So another thing you talk about in the book a lot that I wanted to, why does this keep coming up, is why you might be delusional as a golfer.
Well,
explain that to me, please.
Well, I think all golfers are delusional, including me. As we're talking about, okay, I'm going on playing good. There's a par 5. I know I cannot reach it into. There's no chance I can, even if the fairway's frozen and it's windy, I'm not going to reach this. I can't do it. Yet I stand on the first tee stand on the tee, and I try to hit it too far. Why? And I know it's going to take me 3 shots. I just want to put it in the fairway. What makes me do this? And I think I'm less delusional than a lot of guys. The guy who in 1987, he hit a 7-iron, 163 yards. Therefore, I can always hit a 7-iron, 163 yards. What makes guys like do that? And they do. And I'm talking about doctors and, smart people, but they have this thing about golf. I think one of the problems is you see guys on TV and you think you can do what they do. And it doesn't look that hard, right? It isn't like tackling a guy in a Kansas City, you're not tackling Travis Kelce here. You're just hitting a golf ball. People think, oh, I can do that. And they can't. You can't be them. But I think all golfers are delusional. You go out next time and don't delude yourself. I do it at least once around. Oh, I can hit that. No, I can't. Just lay up. There's time to lay up. How many people don't ever lay up?
Right. Yeah. Never follow a bad shot with a stupid shot.
Yeah. There you go.
And it's interesting because your handicap is based on your potential. It's not the average of your last 20 rounds. It's your 8 best scores of your last 20 rounds. So if they're going to tell you that I'm going to mark you as, your gambling prowess based on your potential, then why can't I play based on my potential? Because I did hit my 7-iron 170 yards once. Yeah. 15 years ago.
I mean, how many guys who do that? And you see them every time, every round. They have an impossible shot. They got to go through 2 traps. The greens, the pins on the side of the green. There's no chance. They should just lay up in front of the green, chip on. They go for it. That's delusional. They're going to make that shot 1 out of 10 times. Don't do that. That's delusional. That's what I'm talking about.
You got a website?
Yes, JimFlynn6.com. SIX.
JIM. Okay, JIMFLYNN
Right.
SIX.com. What's the 6 for?
After I published my first book.
Okay.
After I published my first book, when I didn't have any idea what I was doing, I didn't know how to publish a book, anything. I just wrote this book. And I put it up on Amazon, and the next day I went and looked for it, and I realized there's 5 other guys named Jim Flynn with books on Amazon.
Oh, boy.
You know, Jim Flynn, well, Fred Green isn't exactly uncommon either. You know, Jim Flynn's kind of Mike Smith kind of name. There's a guy who's a sociologist in New Zealand with a book. There's a guy who's written the history of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers named Jim Flynn with a book on Amazon. So I became Jim Flynn 6. That's my website.
Okay. That was good to know. And the book, again, is called Hit Your Second Shot First by Jim Flynn. Fun little book to have. If you have a nice library of golf books, and we've been talking for years and years about different books, and you've been filling up your library, this is a good one. And if you have friends that you want to just give a hard time, buy a copy for them too. Jim, it was great talking to you. Thanks so much.
Well, thanks. Thanks so much for having me. I can hear a little hesitation in your voice because the book isn't for everybody. I know that. But some people will think it's funny, and that's all I'm asking for.